What's happening, everyone? Slight change of pace today. Today, you can see we are in the kitchen. I'm gonna do a couple things with my herbs that are kind of overgrown. I'm gonna cut them and use the microwave to try to dry them out to see if I can, preserve them a little bit as I continue to grow outside. So we're gonna go ahead and start plucking a few herbs and then throw them in the mic and see what happens. All right, stay tuned. Stay with me. Sit tight, something, whatever people say. All right, we are outside. See if I can flip the camera around here. All right, here's my chive plant. Watched a couple videos, and they basically said when you trim this, leave about an inch. So I think I'm gonna cut it about there, and hopefully it continues to grow, and I don't just ruin it for the season. My sage. These are all new stems coming out of the bottom here. See, my kind of dry a little bit. These are all new stems here. I'm gonna start plucking leaves off of this. These look excellent. And I think these are about as big as they're gonna get. And new stems, new sprouts there. New stems coming up there. So I'm gonna go ahead and get rid of some of these bigger leaves and basically eat them. And then we'll see what happens. My basil plant down here, I might take a few, these few of these bigger leaves off because they're kind of covering up the smaller ones underneath. So I'll take a few of these off as well. Get these trimmed up, rinsed off, and in the microwave. All right, stay tuned. Okay, here is my haul. Again, I took the majority of the chives off the stem. I'll pick the the brown ones out. I'm gonna chop this before putting it on the paper towel to dry out. Basil, only took the bigger leaves. Only have maybe 6, 7, 8 leaves. I'd use this all in one dish actually. So basil there, and then chives. This is what I have for sage. Took the bigger leaves off and left the smaller ones to, continue to grow up. So yeah, this is what I'm gonna play with here in the microwave. Again, hopefully I don't ruin it, and we'll see what happens. This is what they look like now. About an inch, 2 inches left on the chives. Only took a few of the larger leaves because a lot of these are still very small. Sure, you can use them, but just wait. And see what the sage looks like now. I left the leaves on the end just because, no specific reason. I thought it looks better without dead leaf, empty stems. And all the stems have sprouts all the way to the end. So that's why I didn't just cut the whole stem off, because there's still little dilly boppers popping up all along the stem. So I figured let them continue to grow and not just cut it off at the base. Okay, so I plan to do these all separate. First, I'm going to do the chives because they are the easiest to chop because they are basically long blades of grass. I have my handy dandy Santoku knife. It's my favorite knife. Had it for a while. When it gets a little dull-ish, I like to sharpen it using the bottom of a coffee cup. If you can see, I've done it a few times here. Basically, you set the cup on the ground, on your whatever, and you just rub the knife across the back. You'll see it start to take off the top layer of the metal. You'll see the residue start to build on the edge of the knife. I just go a few times. Move that over. And you start to feel it when you start, rubbing the knife. It feels rough. And as you go along, it gets smoother. Like it does, you don't feel those rough edges as prominent, and that's when I usually will stop. You can also hear it. Like up there, it's very rough, and down there, it's very smooth. And you see it starting to build up. Those shavings there. Alright, when I'm done with that, I'll usually rinse it and wipe it off with a paper towel. Get the rest of that, those shavings off of there, and we're good to go. Alright, starting with my chives here. Get all those gray bits out of there. Sure they won't hurt anything, but get them out anyway. And make sure the end's even and start chopping. I'll go about, about a 1/4 inch pieces. Make sure they're all uniform so they dry about the same. They're gonna shrink once they are dried out anyway, so I'm not gonna cut them too small. And of course, once they're dried out, you can crumble them up as much as you want anyway. Getting towards the top. Might let those go. And the rest of these will just use in soup or something. Alright, so we do have a pretty decent pile of chopped chives here. According to my previous video, you take your chives or your herbs, you lay them out on a paper towel. It's a plate from the microwave. Take your herbs, lay them out on the paper towel. Make sure they're a single layer. Just go with all of them. The video I watched, actually watched a few of them in the way I usually work, said go about a minute at a time. I'm going to start with 30 seconds. See how that works. And then we'll go from there with the chives. 30 seconds at a time, and then go until they're dry, I guess. We'll see how it turns out. While the chives are cooking, I'm going to go ahead and get the basil ready. Using the same method. I'm not even going to chop these because they're leaves. They'll dry out pretty well. And they're small. I mean, they're not that long. So I'll just lay these out, single layer, across the paper towel. Again, only have about, 8 leaves from my basil plant. Minute's up. Alright, set this aside. not much has changed. They are a little softer, but not dry by any means. So we'll go ahead and throw them in another minute. The bottom paper towel is starting to get damp. Could be from the water when I rinse them, or it could be from the moisture leaving. But you'll go another minute. And during this minute, I'm going to do the sage. A lot more sage leaves. I'm going to take that stem off. Probably don't have to, but I'm going to anyway. It goes out, single layer. Oh, there's a basil leaf. And pop that stem. Go single layer across the paper towel. About 10 seconds left on that microwave there. I'll let that hang out while I finish plucking these here leaves. And then we'll continue this process a minute at a time, letting them go, and then we'll see what happens at the end. All right, they've gone maybe 3 times total, and if you listen, they sound dry. They don't sound like wet grass anymore. They even kind of, I don't know if you can hear that, they have a kind of a dry grass kind of texture to it. So these are done. I'm gonna throw these in a jar. Of course, I collect, pasta sauce jars and Prego and Ragu and all that. So I'm gonna jar these up and start with the sage, which is right here on top. Throw it on. We'll go again about a minute at a time. See what happens. Okay, quick update. Sage only took a minute and then 30 seconds. After a minute, they had shriveled to this. After another 30 seconds, they became brittle enough to be broken down into usable. So I'm not even going to do that right now. I'm just going to bag these up as is, and then over time they'll eventually crush in their little baggies. And again, sage is done. Now we'll go with the basil. We'll do the same. We'll go a minute, check them out, then go 30 seconds after that. All right, that is basil. Again, a minute and then 30 seconds after. And you see they're shriveled up, all the moisture is gone. And are they brittle? Are they brittle? Brittle-ish. Brittle enough. They can be chopped. They don't crumble like the other ones, so that's good enough for me. I'm gonna go ahead and bag these, and then we're done for the day. Of course, that's my dog sticking through the kitchen. Let's see if we can get him before he runs out. Huh, that's Rocky. Sit. Sit. Good boy. All right, you guys, have a good one.